Good morning. Welcome everyone to the Sustainability and Metal Roof and Siding webinar, which is presented by AEP Span today. Today's webinar is part of our series of webinars at Metal Architecture Magazine. I'm Paul Deffenbaugh. I'm the editorial director at Metal Architecture, and we're glad you've joined us. I'm going to turn things over to Marie Ortega, today's speaker. Before we start, I want to preview how we'll work. The webinar is going to last about an hour, and about halfway through, we're going to field questions from the audience. You can use the screen in front of you to send us a question. We'll also, at the end of the webinar, field some more questions using the same procedure. I'm going to monitor the questions and then I'll raise them with Marie. We're also going to do a couple of polls today, which Marie will announce and I'm going to push out to you. We'll provide the results to you of the polls, and it'll be fun. We'll see how that works. Tomorrow, you're going to receive follow-up email with links to more information, including a video of this webinar and a link to download the presentation. So you will be able to get a copy of the presentation, but it'll come tomorrow. AEP Span is providing certification of completions for this webinar for all the registered attendees, and the email tomorrow will give you more information on how you need to secure that. So first, right now, let me turn things over to Marie. Marie Ortega is a product manager for AEP Span, which is a division of NS BlueScope Coated Products North America, CPNA. She's responsible for managing and developing AEP Span's portfolio of products and has been instrumental in shaping CPNA's sustainability program. Before joining the organization, Marie spent several years consulting in the area of marketing and business development for healthcare organizations and software companies. She is proud to celebrate over 6 years of service with CPNA and contribute to AEP Span's sustainability program, as well as work for an organization that makes sustainability a priority. Marie completed a comprehensive assessment of USGBC's LEED and ILFI's Living Building Challenge certification programs. She understands where and how metal roofing and siding can contribute to a project designed to meet a green building certification. Marie's a LEED Green Associate accredited and holds an MBA in marketing from Claremont Graduate University, the Peter F. Drucker Graduate School of Management. Marie, take it away.
Thank you, Paul, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Now, as a building product manufacturer, we understand the role in contributing to a healthier built environment. And as we progress in our green journey, sharing and educating the design community on the green performance attributes of our products and what we're seeing in the market and the challenges that we're working through, that's all important insight for the design community. So we're excited to spend this morning with you all and talk about those areas. So let's get started. The purpose of this course is to make life easier for architects to design green with metal roof and siding products. And at the end of this course, you will have learned what makes metal panels green and how they contribute to green building certification programs. We have 4 learning objectives. The first is material inputs and green performance attributes of metal roof and siding products. The second objective is understanding how metal products can contribute to LEED v4.1 for the BDC projects. And the third objective is understanding why and how transparency documents are valued under LEED 4.1. And then the last objective is understanding how metal roof and siding products can contribute to the Living Building Challenge program. So the first learning objective, it's material inputs and green performance attributes. Now this is a perfect illustration of what I will call the anatomy of a metal panel, which can be used in either a roof or wall application. And as you can see, it's made up of several material inputs. So there's the base steel that is made up of around 86% of the material. And I say of because it all depends on the thickness or the gauge of the steel. And then the coatings make up the remaining material. So in this case, 14%. And each coating offers some type of performance attribute. So for an example, the aluminum zinc coating offers outstanding corrosion protection. Now, of all these materials, 3 ingredients deliver the green performance attributes metal panels are known for. And they are the base steel, the aluminum zinc coating, and the cool top coat or color. So combined, these 3 materials represent about 95% of the total material used for metal panels. And those are the 3 materials that I'm going to elaborate on. So let's talk about the base steel and the aluminum zinc coating. So what makes base steel green is that steel material has a long lifespan. It is 100% recyclable at the end of its life use, and it can be produced primarily by way of recycled steel. And I'll elaborate more on that shortly. The aluminum zinc coating offers outstanding corrosion protection, which helps contribute to the lifespan of metal panels. And in fact, the Bethlehem International Engineering Corp, they did a real-world study a few years ago and found that the corrosion protection of aluminum zinc coating can span from up to 50 to 60 years. So when you combine the durability and longevity of steel material plus the corrosion protection of the aluminum zinc coating, those contribute to metal panels offering a lifespan of 40 to 70 years. And it being 100% recyclable at the end of its life use. And now, this other benefit, it's not attributed to the material, but metal panels, are made to order, so which minimizes waste on the job site. And so, and I'm mentioning that because that is a great green benefit. The third material that offers great green performance is the cool top coat, or the color, which is what you would see on the building. And metal panels are offered generally in 3 types of paint systems, which I've listed on this slide. But for metal panels that are specified on projects, the PVDF paint system is primarily used. So when I talk about painted metal panels, I'm talking within the context of the PVDF paint system. And this illustration offers a great visual of how metal roof keeps a building cooler. So you have the solar radiation reaches the Earth's surface in 3 different wavelengths, and it is the infrared radiation that generates heat on a surface. So it's the pigments in the paint system that have been altered with special infrared reflective pigments that stay cooler than traditional pigments. So when the infrared radiation wavelength hits the surface of a metal roof, and this illustration, provides a visual of that, it allows the solar reflectance and thermal emittance. It allows for those 2 functions to occur, and then it contributes to keeping the building cooler and conserving energy and saving on energy costs. Now, the paint systems that we use for cool metal roofs, they're also used for metal wall panels, which allows metal walls to offer the same solar reflectance and emittance performance as cool metal roofs. And there has been recent research and discussion around creating a cool wall rating system. So I thought I would touch on that topic. So research on cool walls was conducted by the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, and I'll refer to that organization as LBNL, and they are the nation's scientific research lab for the U.S. Department of Energy. And they explored cool wall benefits and technology and infrastructure in a research project sponsored by the California Energy Commission's Electric Program Investment Charge. And this slide really shows a high level of that research. So they evaluated annual energy and cost and emission savings in all California climates and U.S. climate zones 1 through 4. And that was from 2015 through 2018. And they used a program to model the energy consumption for a variety of types of projects. And I have them listed here on this slide. So it was multifamily projects and various office projects are a few of those types of projects. And the key takeaways from that research was that cool walls save energy, money, and carbon dioxide in warm climates. And they help mitigate urban heat islands. And they tend to stay clean, and they're available today, often at no extra cost. The LBNL is developing a cool wall measures in codes and standards and green building programs. And they're working on establishing a cool wall product rating system that may be modeled on or expand on existing programs. And we also know that the CRRC is also proposing to create a rating program for exterior wall products, similar to that of their roofing program. So that's definitely an area that we are going to be monitoring. So let's recap of the key learnings for Objective 1. So first, there are three main material inputs that deliver the green performance for metal panels, and that is the base steel, the aluminum zinc coating, and the cool top coat or color. And we know it's the paint system that's used for metal panels. They have cool pigments that contribute to cool metal roofs. And the paint systems used for cool metal roofs are also used for cool metal walls. And we know that LB&L research has confirmed cool metal walls contribute to saving energy, reducing utility bills, and carbon dioxide in warm climates. So, Paul, let's go ahead and start with the poll on what we're calling the spotlight question.
Thanks, Marie. The first poll question is, what material inputs contribute to metal roof and siding green performance attributes? And we only have a little bit of time here because we got a lot of material and we want to keep pushing forward. So answer quickly. And it looks like about a quarter of you have voted so far. And interestingly enough, Marie, I think you must have done a good job of instructing here, because a vast majority of people are getting the answer correct. I snuck ahead and looked at it.
Excellent.
All right, round up your voting now, and then we'll let Marie get to the final answer here. I'm closing it. Last clicks. Okay, Marie, let us know how the audience. I can tell you how the audience did after you give the answer.
Perfect. So I have it on my screen, as you can see. So the spotlight question: what material inputs contribute to metal roof and siding green performance attributes? And the answer is all of the above.
And
so Paul, how did the audience do?
77% of the audience got all of the above. 10% for cool top coat, and 10% for base steel, and 3% for the aluminum zinc coating.
Okay, excellent. All right, perfect. So let's move on to the second learning objective. And that focuses on how metal roof and siding products contribute to LEED 4.1 for B, D, and C projects. Now, my focus is on USGBC's red-green rating system because it is the most recognized rating system. And I thought by providing a LEED 4.1 assessment would be a good foundation in understanding how metal panels can contribute to other green building certifications or certification programs. So on this slide, there are a few of those other building certification programs, but I thought this would be a 4.1 assessment would be a great foundation. So here is a high-level snapshot of where metal panels can contribute points. And I will cover each of these categories and point out the changes between LEED V4 and 4.1. But I want to make sure that I make it clear that the actual point contribution would vary because it would depend on the type of project, and design for the project. So let's get started with the first category, that's sustainable sites, and specifically the heat island reduction. Now, the intent of this credit is to minimize the effects of microclimates by reducing heat islands. And now we learned in the first learning objective that it's the paint systems that contribute to metal roofs contributing as a cool roof. Every color will be designated an SRI value. So if that color meets the minimum SRI value established in LEED, a point can be applied. But what's important to note is that the CRRC provides 3-year SRI values based on generalized color families, and their approach is conservative, and it does not reflect the actual performance of each color. And the coating suppliers do not provide weather testing. So providing an actual 3-year age SRI value for each color is not available. And coating suppliers are using CRRC's default values because it's an easier path. And I'm sharing this with you because we received requests for 3-year age SRI values, and we will provide the CRRC SRI values, but we also supply the initial SRI values because we feel that the initial SRI values reflect the true performance for each color. This next category is energy and atmosphere, and specifically the optimized energy performance, and its option 2 is where metal panels can contribute points. So the intent of this category is to increase levels of energy performance and reduce environmental and economic harm associated with excess energy use. And so cool metal panels that meet the minimum SRI values can contribute or be included in energy simulation models. And cool metal roofs improve energy performance, but the percentage savings are based on several other factors, including the climate zone, the building geometry, and the HVAC system type. Now we're into the material and resources category, which is where, of course, manufacturers can contribute the most points. And we'll start with the building life cycle impact reduction category, and specifically option 4, the whole building life cycle assessment, which applies to new construction projects. So there were changes from LEED V4 to 4.1, and the intent of those changes is to include greater focus on reducing embodied carbon of building structures and enclosures. So I'm going to try to make this really simple. Firstly, metal roofs and walls are considered part of the building structure and enclosures. So if a metal panel manufacturer with an EPD, they can contribute a point because that EPD can be used to conduct an LCA of the project structure and enclosure. And when you look at the table on this slide, there are opportunities to contribute additional points through pathways 2 through 4 if it can be demonstrated that there is a reduction in global warming potential and other impact categories. And as I progress through this presentation, I'm going to reference impact categories. And these are the impact categories that I'm sure you will recognize are in LEED. So when I talk about impact categories, these are the impact categories that I'm referencing. The next category is building product disclosure and optimization. And there were changes to this category from V4 to V4.1. And when it comes to EPDs for metal panel manufacturers, there are some important details that you all should be aware of. And I'll elaborate a little bit more on that in Learning Objective 3. But at a high level, a manufacturer with an EPD can contribute a point for option 1, and then additional points for option 2 by demonstrating a reduction on the life cycle impact. This next category, or this area within building product and disclosure optimization, it's the sourcing of raw materials. And under V4, option 1, it's referred to as raw materials sourcing and extraction reporting. And that was a category that if a manufacturer could provide a self-declared third party or a third party verified sustainability report from its raw material supplier, they would be able to contribute a point. Well, that option has been moved to the pilot credit library, where it will be refined and updated. And then under V4, option 2, that was leadership extraction practices. That now is option 1 under LEAD 4.1. And then they renamed it to resource or responsible sourcing of raw materials. So I have that, displayed in the table on this slide. But for metal panels, they fall under the recycled content option. And under LEAD, there is a default recycled content for steel products where no recycled content information is available. And so it can be assumed that the recycled content is 25% post-consumer. Now, what's important to know is that the majority of steel supplied on the West Coast comes from raw steel mills that use a basic oxygen furnace. So that exact recycled content is not available. So it's most likely that what you will find is that a metal product manufacturer will claim the 25% post-recycled content. Under LEAD V4.1, there's been changes to the material ingredient credit, which I will elaborate a little bit more in Learning Objective 3, but again, at a high level, a manufacturer with an HPD or the other disclosures listed for this particular credit opportunity, they can contribute a point for option 1. And then in option 2, if product ingredient optimization can be demonstrated, additional contributions can also be available. And then option 3 was moved to the pilot credit library. Now, the PBT resource or source reduction category, it is intended to reduce the release of bioaccumulative and toxic chemicals associated with the life cycle of building materials. And this category is specific to healthcare projects and addresses specifying substitutes for materials with lead and cadmium. So metal roof panels and flashings are lead-free and cadmium-free products, so they can contribute points to this category. And the paint systems used on metal roof panels and flashings are also lead-free and cadmium-free products. So a product MSDS can, you can be able to get that document and information from a manufacturer. Now, there are 2 options where a metal panel manufacturer can contribute points for the construction and demolition waste management category. And in option 1, from a diversion perspective, steel is 100% recyclable, so it contributes 0 waste to a landfill. And in option 2 is the reduction of total waste material. Metal panels are manufactured on a cut-to-size basis, so it should reduce or eliminate waste at the job site. And the last category where there's a credit opportunity is the indoor environmental quality, and it's focused on reducing chemical contaminations that can damage indoor air quality and human health. And metal panels can contribute points to this category because they can be used in interior applications. And sealant is not required when installed for interior use. And the paint on metal panels is factory applied and cured, resulting in the final product being inherently non-emitting source. So we're at the learning objectives for, or the key learnings for objective 2. Metal panels can contribute points for 4 categories, and those 4 categories are sustainable sites by way of heat island reduction, optimized energy performance, specifically option 2, material resources. There are many point contribution opportunities, and I have them, listed here on the slide. And then the last credit category is the low emitting materials. So our spotlight question: which lead category or which lead credit category can metal roof and siding contribute the most points? So A, sustainable site, B, energy and atmosphere, C, materials and resources, or D, indoor environmental quality. And the answer would be C, materials and resources. So I think we'll stop for a few moments, Paul, and we're going to open it up to some questions.
Thanks, Maria. I have a couple of questions here. And one, you mentioned that there are changes between lead 4 and 4.1 that affecting metal. I think you said you were going to get into that deeper later, but if not, is it?
Yes. Well,
okay.
I addressed some of the areas, but the main changes, it's around the transparency documents. And so it gets a little bit more involved when it comes to metal, because like EPDs, for an example, it's just not one EPD. There are 2 EPDs to take into consideration. So there's some little details, and I am trying to provide a visual that lays it out simple for version 4 versus version 4.1, and then I'll elaborate on metal. So that's what I'm about to address through learning objective 3.
Right. Good. And I have a question for Mike here, who's just wondering if it's known what types of credits exist for these types of products in applications that fall under LEED version 4.1, O&M, and residential, and even ID&C.
That's a great question. Primarily, a lot of our products are used on new construction. That's where I focus my assessment. However, that said, because I've done the assessment and I'm very familiar with the BD&C, I'm more than happy to look into that. If he's interested in in those areas, I'm more than happy to look into that for him.
Okay, great. So Mike can follow up with you. He'll have a contact information in the follow-up email.
Exactly.
If he wants to ask more. Great.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm going way back to the beginning, and this is just kind of a clarification for me. You said that in talking about coatings, you're going to really focus on the PVDF coatings and the polyester and the SMP. But I don't, maybe I missed it. Is there a performance, I know there's a performance difference in those, but is it a big enough performance difference that affects LEED points or other green standards?
Well, I will say that they do. So the way in which the PVDF paint system, it's got those cool pigments, that applies to the SMP paint system, the polyester and the SMP paint systems. But primarily when we work on projects that are architectural, where it's specified, it's always the PVDF paint system, because that is the top-notch, high-end performance paint system that's used. So that's why I focused on there. But I will say that the SMP, today's technology has improved dramatically with our paint system. So those cool features, they do apply with the poly and the SMP paint systems. But I was trying to, we've got 60 minutes, I was trying to stay focused on, you know, everything around specification of metal panels.
And I'm burning up time here ourselves. We got about just a little under 20 minutes left, so I'll hold the questions till the end, and and let you go ahead. Thanks, Marie.
Okay, perfect. So the third learning objective, that's around why and how transparency documents are valued. So the two main transparency documents are the EPDs and the material ingredient reporting. And the EPDs, of course, we know it's derived from the LCAs, which determines the environmental impact of the manufacturing process from cradle to gate. The material ingredient reporting is done by way of HPD, and there's some other disclosures, and of course the declared label, and those disclose all the ingredients and known hazards in a product. And one thing I wanted to share quickly, and that is, in November, I attended the USGBC Green Build Conference, and they shared a really important piece of information that I wanted to share with you all, and that was the number of EPDs in North America has grown from 300 EPDs in 2014 to 1,500 EPDs as of November 2018. So that's a huge, like 40,000% increase. And I was trying to look for a similar data regarding HPDs, but I was not able to find that definitive data. But what I will say is that, you know, if the growth of EPDs is any indication, building product manufacturers are listening to the design community. And so what I'm going to share with you now is regarding these transparency documents and specifically around metal panel products. So here's the EPDs, and I try to make this simple. So on the top part, it's version 4. On the bottom part, it's version 4.1. So let's start with version 4. Option 1, there were 3 pathways to contribute a point, and the product-specific Type 3 EPD could contribute the highest value. So you can see that from the table on the top part of the table that I'm showing you. And in option 2, there was a multi-attribute optimization, which was really intended to establish industry average threshold for the impact areas. Well, the change in V4.1 was meant to really simplify the selection of products with LCA data and increase the ability to select optimized products. So under option 1, if a manufacturer provides a compliant product-specific LCA EPD, they can contribute a point. Simple, right? There's not those 3, and under V4, there were these different variations. Now it's simple, 1 point. Now, if a manufacturer provides a product-specific Type 3 EPD with third-party verification and external critical review, they can contribute a point, and the product can be valued at 1.5 products. And then in option 2, there was a big difference there in that option 2, the changes were intended to reward initial first steps in lowering embodied carbon and other life cycle impacts, and rewarding optimized products that have a lowered carbon and other impacts. So if a product complies with either of the life cycle impact reduction action plan or the life cycle impact reductions in embodied carbon, a point can be contributed and either apply a 10% of cost threshold or a product calculation. So as you can see, they've certainly simplified this process for this particular area of the category. So now in the case of metal product manufacturers, they would need to provide 2 different EPDs. So let me show you how this works. So depending on your project needs, on how a project is funded, determines which supply chain a metal product manufacturer would use to produce metal roof and siding products for your project. And in general, standard steel materials used to manufacture metal panels that are located in the West Coast, so manufacturers on the West Coast, will be supplied by way of a basic oxygen furnace steel mill, and a metal product manufacturer would need to supply an EPD for that specific supply chain. Now, if a product requires metal products with a higher recycled content, the steel material would come from an electric arc furnace steel mill, and an EPD would need to be provided by way of that supply chain. So that's an important distinction. And so, of course, knowing that ahead of time at the beginning of a project, it's critical for that to be articulated to the metal product manufacturer, because they typically follow the standard steel supply chain, the BO+C steel mill, that supply chain. So it's really critical to communicate that on the front end of a project. So the second transparency disclosure that I mentioned is the material ingredient reporting. The changes to the material ingredient credit under LEED 4.1 was intended to reduce barriers for achievement while maintaining the overall approach to the material ingredient credit. So as you can see from the table, LEED V4 option 1, there were several pathways to contribute a point. And then in option 2, there were several pathways to demonstrate material ingredient optimization. And in option 3, it was about supply chain optimization. The changes from V4 to V1, 4.1, option 1, the pathways remain the same. Plus, they've added a third-party verification reward worth 1.5 products. So that is new. Option 2 was changed and rewards manufacturers who can demonstrate leadership for material ingredient screening, assessment, and optimization. And so 1 point can be contributed and apply a 10% of cost threshold and a 1.5 product value. And option 3 was moved to the pilot credit library. So I hope that shows it simple and visual. I'm a visual person, so I like to show that visually to simplify it. Now, for a metal panel or metal product manufacturer, they would have to provide 2 different HPDs depending on the design needs of a project. So a metal product manufacturer would need to provide a disclosure of its product in a painted offer, and the Residence In project is an example of that, and a disclosure for its product in an aluminum zinc coating with a clear top coating. And that would be the school project that I had showed on this slide. So as you can see, each coating, the different coatings really support the different, design aesthetics that an architect is trying to achieve. So that's an important distinction. So 2 different HPDs would need to be required. Now, the third-party verified transparency disclosures remain an emphasis under LEED 4.1 and can contribute more to a project. Third-party verification offers many benefits, and I've included some of the benefits here, but I think the one that really stands out to me that I think they're all important, but it's that benefit of that it provides assurance of compliance with standards. That to me is really important. But with that said, let's move on to the key learnings for Objective 3. And actually, after I cover this, Paul, we're going to want to do another poll. So let me share the key learnings for Objective 3. The third-party verified EPDs and HPDs can contribute a full point, and the product is valued at 1.5 products. And the third-party verification provides many benefits and to me, of course, the top one is that it provides assurance of compliance to standards. So, Paul, if we could start the poll, that would be terrific.
I am pushing that out now, and I think I pushed that. Nope. Push that out, and remind everybody we're running short on time. We got one more learning objective to go, so let's vote quickly on this thing and get to the good stuff that Marie has. And this is a lot of dense information, Marie. I'm going to hold questions till the very end, but remind the audience if they do have questions to submit them. All right. A few more seconds to click your choice. It's worse than the SATs.
There you go.
Try
to make it simple because all right, excellent, thanks.
I'm going to close the poll now, and you can provide the answer.
All right, so the answer to how do third-party verified transparency documents contribute to projects being built to meet LEED the 4.1 criteria, and the answer is D, all of the above.
And the audience did better on this poll. The 82% of them got all of the above. 12% provides assurance of compliance to standards, and then 3% for the other two. So I will let you go on to the rest of the presentation, Marie.
Excellent, thank you. So this is our last learning objective, and the focus is on metal products contributing to the Living Building Challenge program, which I'll refer to as LBC. So we know the LBC is the International Living Future Institute's Green Building Certification Program, and it is made up of 7 petals, and the building products fit into the material petals. So that's the area I'm going to focus on. Now, there are 3 labels that a manufacturer can pursue, and I'll touch on those labels in a few moments. But basically, it's important to note that an LBC Declare label answers 3 simple questions, and that is, where does the product come from? What is it made of? And where does it go at the end of its life? So let's talk about the 3 labels. The first is the LBC Red List Free label, which discloses that there is no red list ingredients in a product. The LBC Compliant discloses a product contains red list ingredients that have been given a temporary exemption by the LBC due to current market limitations. And the third label is Declared, which discloses a product contains red list ingredients not on the LBC exemption list. So like HVDs, a metal panel manufacturer would have to provide 2 different separate disclosures. So it would need to provide one for its products with an aluminum zinc coating, which is the school project that I have shown on the slide, or its products in a painted offer. Now, today, metal wall panels can meet the LBC Red List Free criteria, but there are some challenges that we're working through. So let me explain. So I just shared with you, the metal panels with the aluminum zinc coating with the clear top. We know that meets the LBC Red List Free criteria. So what's important for you to know here is that these products can be ordered as a standard offer with no minimum requirements and at no extra cost. And from a design perspective, it offers a natural steel aesthetic design, and it's offered in multiple profiles. So I'm sharing this information with you first because when it gets to the painted offer, it's a little bit more complex. So metal panels in a painted offer can meet the LBC Red List Free criteria, but it is typically a special order with minimum order requirements and offered at a higher price with longer lead times. And so metal panel manufacturers are navigating some challenges with their paint offer, and so I'll elaborate on that. And that is that, there is hesitation by coating manufacturers to provide proprietary information on paint formulas. And the standard corrosion resistant primers contain low levels of chrome. Now, factory applied paints often contain a curing chemical that, while on the red list, is reacted and eliminated during the curing process. And despite the presence of a few red list substances, pre-painted metal is inherently safe and does not pose a risk. And the industry has been working through this concern, and there have been some performance trade-offs, which until recently was significant. So there is progress, and we are actively pursuing, a suitable replacement. Because ideally, it would be great if we could offer our painted offer as a standard, right? With the standard, no requirements about minimum requirements and extra costs, right? So we're really trying to work through that solution, like our panels and that zinc aluminum coated with top resin coating, how it's a standard offer. That's what we're shooting for our painted offer. And so we're not giving up, and we're having these conversations with our paint supplier. Third-party verification is available for declared labels. And that's relatively, I would say, relatively new. And of course, as the HPDs, third-party verification is huge. It's significant. And the two areas that I'll really highlight, and that is, it's that third-party verification. It provides additional level of confidence and mitigates risk. And it provides assurances and compliances to the declared label claims. And then that last bullet point, and that is that it creates awareness and healthy dialogue between the manufacturer and the supplier. So the learning objectives, or the key learnings for this last objective, again, the declared label, it answers these three simple questions. Where does a product come from? What is it made of? And where does it go at the end of its life? Metal roof and siding can meet the LBC red list free criteria. And then that third-party verification, is important, and it's that providing assurances of compliance, to me, is the top benefit. So we're at our spotlight question. So the question is, which claims are true for metal panels with LBC red list free label? So A, painted metal panels require a special order with minimum quantity requirements at a higher price. B, metal panels with aluminum zinc coating with clear top coating are offered as a standard at no additional cost. Or C, declared labels can be third-party verified. Or D, all of the above. So I'll give you a quick second to determine which is the answer. And the answer is D, all of the above. So I'd like to open it up to questions.
Thanks, Marie. That was a ton of information that you put in there, and I think it's going to take a while for some people to absorb it, certainly for me. I do have a couple of questions here. Robert wants to know who are third parties for LBC?
That's a great question. Third-party assessors for LBC?
Yeah, I think that's what he's aiming for, right?
I know there are several that, I know one of them is SDS Global and another one is Watt Sustainability, but there are a few that that are approved assessors, but the SDS Global is definitely one of them, and Watt Sustainability is another.
Okay.
And I can find out that information for Robert if I can get these questions, then I'm more than happy to respond to the attendees and help answer those questions.
You will get all the questions, and then people will also be able to email you if they have follow-up questions. Sometimes questions are a little specific to their issues. Dale wants to know where you to find an example of a full lead submittal.
Oh. So submittal in terms of so submittal in terms of the manufacturer providing submittal documentation?
I would guess so, yes.
Because so these, I think the key is a manufacturer, they know, not only know the category, but they know why and how. And we've gone through that, we've gone through that process, and I have submittal documents for all these categories. So when you say submittal, our role typically as a manufacturer, we will provide all of these documents, and we'll provide our EPDs. And I think importantly, we can provide our HPDs, and then we try to connect the dots to, since HPDs and LBC Red List Free declare labels, they're around material. We try to provide information that connects the dots to the material, to the product that's being specified. So we've given that a lot of thought, and so if they're referring, so I can provide that insight from a building product manufacturer. And so I would think, that a manufacturer should be able to have documents that support how it contributes to a lead category or LBC project. Gosh, I hope that helps.
Well, thanks very much, Marie. It was a great presentation and proof of another great resource for the architectural community, kind of a team approach to the difficulties we face in construction these days. If the audience wants more information, they can go to aepspan.com and be sure to look for the follow-up emails tomorrow that are going to have links to specific pages to download the materials, as well as, and Marie may regret this, her email address so you can follow up with direct questions. Marie, just a fabulous job. Thank you so much. And thank everybody for attending. We're going to do another webinar called Metal Wall Course on September 18th, 2019 at 1 o'clock Eastern. It's also brought to you by AEP Span. Marie, thank you. And I hope everyone will join us for next month's webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.